Well, hey, friend, welcome back to the podcast. This is Jennifer. This is podcast episode number 214. That's 214. We're going to be talking today about how to use Instagram stories for your business to get more sales, to get more engagement, to build that know, like, and trust factor with your ideal client. And I'm excited about it. I love Instagram stories. I can tell you that I used to be so in love with Facebook. If you have followed me for any length of time, you'll know that I'm verified on Facebook. I have 360,000 followers on Facebook. I've been verified for years and years, like 4 or 5 years. And I used to be a little bit resistant to Instagram. Honestly, I kind of felt like I was cheating on Facebook. And I was like, I don't really understand the draw. And then they came out with stories. And I was like a moth to the flame, my friends. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. Like for me, the amazing part of Instagram is not the feed, it's the stories. And the stories are kind of like the behind the scenes. I've heard it referred to before as like, if you think of the Instagram mullet, I love whoever coined this term, by the way, you know, that the stories are like the party in the back. So you've got the business in the front, which is your feed. And then the stories are the party in the back. And I love apparently the party in the back, which is, you know, I think a lot of us do, right? And so, but there's some ways that I want you to use the Instagram stories so that you can work with the algorithm, so you can use the stories to your advantage so that you can actually make more sales, hopefully get your content on the feed in front of more people, get more people going to your bio, et cetera. Okay. And so that's what we're going to be talking today. We're going to give you some different strategies you can use on your stories that are going to be helpful for you. And then at the end of the podcast, I'm going to give you a little gifty gift. And so stick around for that. So real quick though, I want to say a quick prayer over someone who went to Apple Podcasts and left us a review. So the name of the business is Fervent Beauty. And I love what she said in her review. She said, I've just recently started listening to Jennifer's podcast, and every time she speaks life into me. Her genuine heart for the Lord and her desire to impact women for him is truly a blessing. So Fervent Beauty, I'm not sure exactly what it is that your business does, but I just wanted to pray a blessing over you, over your family, over your business, over all the dreams that you have hidden in your heart. I want you to know that the Lord sees you. You have not been forgotten. And I'm just praying that you would feel his absolute nearness to you now and forever. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So thanks for leaving that review. And please know that we see your reviews, you guys, and they matter. Whenever like we're inviting people to come on the podcast, they always go, okay, let me give you just a little behind the scenes. Okay. So when you like subscribe to my podcast, there's no way for you to see how many subscribers I have. Does that make sense? It's very difficult even for us to find out how many subscribers I have. All we can see is like downloads, but all a potential guest can see is like how many reviews that we have, which would lead them to think, okay, so she's probably got, quite a few subscribers. So does that make sense? So every time you guys leave a review, I'm like, yes. So thank you, Fervent Beauty. Okay. Let's talk about Instagram stories. My new favorite thing. I no longer feel like I'm cheating on Facebook. I feel like I've broke up with Facebook and I'm now married to Instagram stories. Okay. So let's talk about, I was supposed to do 3 points and I started going through all my notes and I'm like, no 3 points. I've got 6 points here. So let me tell you some things about Instagram stories and the best way that you can use them. Number one, I want you to create stories that are super engaging, that are like inviting your audience to talk back to you. Let me give you a, for instance, yesterday I did a story that said, hey, I've got some time. Like ask me anything. And I did one of those story boxes. If you go to do a story right now, so you click on your plus button, you click on the word story, you take a little selfie. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, you just saw me do that. You go up and click on the sticker up above. You're actually going to click on the question box. And so that's what I did. And that's what I would suggest you do if you're really wanting to use your stories to engage with the people who follow you and potential clients down the road. The reason the engagement is so important is because this is what gets people to know, like, and trust you. I know you've heard me talk about this a million times. You've heard other marketers talk about the know, like, and trust factor, but it really is the game changer. Because when people hear you on stories and they see you on stories and they feel like you relate to them and that you're genuinely interested in the questions that they ask, in a situation like that, it does something psychologically the next time you put something in front of them to sign up for, to buy, when you go ask them to do something. I mean, I think one of the reasons, you guys, that we have such, a huge number of reviews on this podcast or like on my book, Fear is Not the Boss of You, is because I've tried so hard to build that know, like, and trust factor. I'm not outsourcing my DMs. I'm not having somebody else post all the things on my stories. Like that's literally me. And I'm literally trying to like build relationship in there. Because what happens is when you're engaging with people on your stories and they feel like, they know you, you know them, et cetera, they're going to be more likely to tell their friend who tells a friend who tells a friend. And listen, Instagram's hard to grow right now. I'm just going to say it. There may be people that are like, Instagram's so easy. Oh, I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it. And so, I mean, I guess I could quit talking about things that are trigger topics. That'd probably help my Instagram, but also #unhushable. So there's that. Okay. So use some engaging things. So you could ask people a question, just tell them to send you a DM. You could use that question thing. You can do polls. But there's a million different things that you can do where you can ask them to take like the little quiz thing, which I don't really like because there's only one right answer. And then that's weird. I don't know if you've seen what I'm talking about or not, but use music, just have fun with your stories. You don't have to be so serious in the stories. Okay. Number 2 thing you can do in your stories is make sure that you're using new features. Instagram, like every other social media, wants their newest features to be used, a ton in the beginning to make it look as though they are ruling the social media world. And so they do have a tendency to reward early adopters. Is that it? I always think, is it adopters or adapters? Adopters, or what Jason and I have done, we've adopted. Adapters, I feel like, are something you plug in. So does Instagram want you to be an adapter or adopter? Who even knows? Who even cares? Okay, but you get my point, right? Let me give you an example. And by the way, my podcast, I can talk about whatever I want to here. So hopefully you're not going to be offended and immediately unsubscribe because I'm talking about a hot topic. But I have begun speaking recently on my Instagram stories how I am not planning on getting the vaccination that is in the news right now. I'm not at this point. I'm not. Maybe down the line, but right now it's a hard no for me. And so, so those are, some interesting conversations, right? So I've been talking about that on stories. And so I noticed this week that there is a brand new, when you go to your stories, a little circle up at the top that the Instagram is wanting you to use. And I'm looking here. If you're watching me on YouTube, you're seeing it. It is the Instagram, what do I want to say, icon, and it says new. And when you click on it, it says introducing the COVID-19 Information Center. As if any of us need more information. But so Instagram's wanting you to click on that, right? They also have a story now that says vaccine. And they'll put you on the story if you use that sticker that says, I got vaccinated. Now, regardless of if you are pro-vax, when it comes to this one in particular or not, that's really neither here nor there. I'm trying to teach you something. And so from what I understand, Instagram, for people that are putting that I got vaccinated, that sticker on their stories, they're showing their stories to more people. I can neither confirm nor deny, but that is what I have been told by another person who is in business. And so, my whole point is Instagram wants you to use the new features that they roll out, because they reward people that are using those features. When you use those new stickers, when you use, click on the things that they want you to, they're trying to reward you. So you'll do it again in the future. So there's that. Okay. Let's see. Instagram has another new feature coming up where you can go live on your stories with 3 other people using the multi-capture feature. Dun, dun, dun. If you are in my coaching group, my What's Working Now, you're going to hear about this month. And we try to keep you updated, as you know, in that group with all those types of things, the new stuff in social media, so that you don't have to. If you're like, Jen, how do I get into your coaching group? Send me a DM. And I can tell you how to get on the wait list. Okay. Another thing about Instagram stories is Instagram really wants you to be consistent on the stories. So unless you're taking a Sabbath, unless you're on vacation, unless you're, under the covers, sick in bed, something like that, try to be on your stories daily and not one. Try to be on your stories multiple times a day, because inevitably what happens if you are not on your stories, Instagram starts pushing you down in terms of, who they're showing your stories to. If that makes sense. And so at least a couple times a day, you need to be on stories. Now, some of you are going to go, well, what on earth would I tell people about, especially in business? Well, follow some other people who are in business. What do you like to see on their stories? Like I just answered a bunch of business questions last night. I also showed people on my Instagram stories how they can mute that like vaccine story bubble at the top. And so I gave them like a tip. I showed people this week how you can use that one filter that makes it look like you've had lip injections and cheek injections. And I told people like, go up here and click right into my name and you can try this filter too. Like, so instruction, right? Encouragement, share posts you see from other people. When I did a post on my Instagram feed the other day and it just says #unhushable, I cannot believe how many of you shared that to your own stories. Thank you for that. So be consistent in your posting, but also make sure that there's a variety. And so when you're sitting there thinking, well, I have no idea what I would actually put in my stories. Sure you do. You know what you like. You know what you like to see on other people's stories. Just now, how can you do that in your own business? Right? Today, Jason and I did some stories on how we are getting ready to travel to see and meet in real life Lisa and John Bevere. We will be in Mexico meeting them in the next couple of weeks. And so we did a story today how we went to book our flight a couple of weeks ago and realized, OMG, oh my gosh, our passports expired in January and we didn't know it. And I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. So we of course did a rush. We like literally went to the Walgreens that day, had to get, the new passport pictures, did a little prayer, put a little rushy rush on it, put it in the mail. They finally came today. So we did a story on that. So a mixture of personal behind the scenes and businessy encouraging stuff is always a really, really winning combination. So do that. I will tell you that things just like Happy Monday, I don't know. I don't know that that's going to be helpful necessarily, but if you're really struggling on stories, you can actually go to jenniferallwood.com/30 days of stories, the number 30 days of stories. I'll give you a bunch of ideas there. So go do that. A fourth point that I want to tell you about is when you're doing your stories. And I had a really precious woman today who messaged me, and I want to read to you her DM so that I don't misquote her. Okay. I don't know that she necessarily listens to my podcast because I think she was a reasonably new follower of mine on Instagram. But anyhow, she's seen me doing some Instagram stories lately talking about the COVID vaccination. And she has seen me spelling it like C and then like an asterisk, V exclamation point D. And she's seen me like doing the word vaccine with using like the brackets instead of the C's. And she thought that I was like mocking people who are getting the vaccine. And I'm like, no, why would you think that? Okay, so here's what she said. She said, I support your choice not to get the COVID vaccine, but I think your mocking tone is insensitive to people who choose to vaccinate. She said, it's your mocking opinion that bothers me, not your opinion. And I responded to her, and I'm reading this point line by line. I said, could you please point out to me where I'm mocking, or is that just your opinion? Because I'm not mocking anyone. And she said, you type out vaccine as VA, bracket, INE, and passport as PA, $PORT. And I said, oh, her name's Cindy. Okay, so here's what I said. Clearly, you're not understanding how the algorithm works. I didn't mean that at all in a mocking way. If you spell out those words on your Instagram stories, Instagram puts that warning down at the bottom that says, if you need to know more about COVID, here's how you can go to the CDC site. Okay, so she didn't know that. And I told her censorship is alive and well on Instagram stories as well as on Facebook. I mean, at this point, I don't care what side, how you vote. I don't care what you think about, the vaccine. I don't care how different you and I may look, act, feel, think, whatever. I think we can all agree that there's some censorship going on, not just for people who believe the same as me, but from all different angles, And so, so I told her, last week, or was it the week before? And I actually did a screenshot of my stories about this last night. I was having like 14,000 people watching my Instagram stories. And you can see that, by the way, when you're like, how do I know how many people just watched one of my stories? Okay, so go to your Instagram right now. And I'm doing a little teaching here, and go to like your own stories. And so, so this one is now up to 8,000, thank goodness, but it's the number down on the left and the bottom. And it says seen by 8,022 people. Well, last week or the week before, I was at 14,000 people, seeing my stories. And then a couple of days ago, it plunged to 4,000 people sharing my stories because I was talking about hot topics, and I wasn't doing enough of hiding the words. Does that make sense? So Cindy and I had a great conversation. We left it with hugs and kisses, and, her and I are absolutely fine. And now she understands why I'm talking in code. It's not because I'm mocking anybody. It's because you got to be smart with the words that you're using on social media these days. Okay. So there's that. Let's see. Another tip I wanted to give you real quick, and then we'll button it up for today. But another way to really grow your Instagram and to grow your following is for you to share other people's content, and not only share it, but to tag them. Okay. So for instance, if you were to say, show a picture of my book, which, by the way, Fear is Not the Boss of You. It is a year old. It came out a year ago yesterday. Oh, I'm feeling a little triggered about that. Remember when I had to cancel my 12-city book tour? It's okay. It's all right. God's got big plans for it. Otherwise, it's all good. It's all good. Everything's fine here. Anywho. Okay. So, what was my point? Oh, okay. So let's say you were to take a picture of yourself with Fear is Not the Boss of You, and you would post it on your stories. Okay. So if you tag me on it, then I can share your account on my own stories. And so let's say you have a really cool business name, like the lady who gave the review, Fervent Beauty. So I would say, Fervent Beauty, thank you so much for sharing my book. I'm so absolutely honored. Well, let's say you've got some people who follow me that they're like, well, what is Fervent Beauty? Or they're into beauty, or they sell beauty counter products, or they're like, well, I like beauty. So they would want to go perhaps check you out, and then hopefully you'll get some new followers. Does that make sense? So one of the ways that you can try to grow your following, grow your engagement, try to grow your account organically is by sharing other people's content. Yes, I talked about that, but also just doing a picture where you tag them, and not in a manipulative way, but just like you're smart, you're a business person way. So you tag them if you're talking about them. I mean, if you're talking about them anyway, why wouldn't you tag them? Right. And so, but it is sometimes interesting to me. There's this, okay, another little tip here. You got to join my coaching group one of these days, by the way, so you get all these tips. But there's an app called Mention, Mention, and you can sign up for Mention, which means that when people mention you on the internet, but they don't tag you, that you get an email. Now, when we launched Fear is Not the Boss of You, I actually got the Mention app because that was one of the only ways I could tell that we were hitting different lists. Like the day that we hit the Publishers Clearinghouse list right behind Carrie Underwood and her fabulous legs, she was number 14 on that list, and we were number 15 on that list. Like, I would not have known, because there was no way they don't tag you on a list. It's not like Publishers. Is it called Publishers Clearinghouse, by the way? That's where you win money. I still think it's called Publishers Clearinghouse. We were on the top of 3 lists with Carrie Underwood. But anyway, I wouldn't even have known it, because it's not like they send you an email. So anyhow, that Mentions app will sometimes tell me when people mention me on Instagram and stuff. And I'm like, oh, if I had known, like, I wouldn't have known if I didn't have that. But I would have like reshared their content, right? I would have reshared that tag. So anyhow, I hope that those were some really great tips for you on how to use stories. If you're like me and you're like, okay, I love Facebook, and I don't want to do Instagram. Well, listen, I get it. But if you're somebody that already watches stories, if you watch me on Instagram and you watch my stories, but you have not yet started using stories to build your business or build your personal brand, what's stopping you? Go do it. Go do a story and tag me on it so I can cheer you on. Because they're fun. They're brief. I mean, 15 seconds, anybody can be courageous for 15 seconds, right? Do a little, sunset and put some music to it. And let's get busy using our stories to try to really continue to build relationship with people who you can hopefully nurture enough that they will eventually buy your product, your service, your course, or whatever. So hopefully this was helpful to you. This is Jennifer Allwood. Don't forget that freebie we have for you at jenniferallwood.com/30 days of stories. And 30 is spelled 30. 30 days of stories. It's going to give you some good ideas for your own Instagram stories. All right. Bless you, friend. Bye-bye.